what's really cool is when you start seeing things like what we're doing with Gong Labs, as an example, we found through analysis that cursing more on calls actually tends to help with deals because they feel the person that you're speaking to feels like you're a little bit more personable, and that type of thing. So those are kind of like the insights those aren't the main insights that we're pulling, but those are kind of sort of more the interesting ones that we're finding out just kind of through running this business and doing this kind of exploration into AI.
Hi, and welcome back to the Teams Insider podcast. Really interesting conversation this week with Patrick Burke from Gong. Gong is a revenue AI platform. The tie-in here is they pull data from meetings and calls. They use AI to then push that into CRM systems, and they do a whole lot besides. And this is with Numonix, who are the platform that are used to gather the Teams call data. So Numonix have a TRaaS service where they use their compliance recording engine, but they're using it to gather data for Microsoft Teams calls and meetings to enable the capabilities in Gong. So we get into all the details, what Gong is, how that partnership works, and how they pull the data and what they do with it. Thanks to Patrick for taking the time to jump on the podcast, and many thanks to Numonix for sponsoring the podcast. Really appreciate their support of everything we're doing. On with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Teams Insider podcast. Got an interesting one this week. A lot of talk in our world around meetings and meeting insights and Copilot. And today we're going to look at a different option that's on the market that's been like rocketing success as far as I've seen. I've got Patrick from Gong. And Patrick, you just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Tom. So I run our go-to-market channel for our technology partnerships over at Gong. Been here for about 3 years.
Oh, I bet that's been quite a ride so far.
Yeah. It's definitely been interesting going from single product to multi-platform, and just especially where we kind of started in AI, and now just seeing the proliferation of that. It's been pretty incredible, as you can imagine.
Awesome. So for those who are not familiar with Gong, can you just give us like the 60-second what it is, what's the business use case?
Yeah, totally. So at its very kind of base, like Gong is a revenue AI platform that helps sales teams win more deals. So we auto capture and analyze sales conversations, providing insights to improve sales performance and close more business. On top of that, it really just allows users across the org to identify trends, monitor progress of strategic initiatives, and manage sales pipeline really from any level. So be that individual contributor to CRO to CEO, all across the hierarchy of an org. And we really just empower sales teams to make data-driven decisions, coach more effectively, and collaborate across the org.
I love this space because it's like the most measurable space in the world of like, is your tool doing its job? It's like you can literally see it in the the sales and the numbers and the people using the tool, I guess.
Yeah. That's the interesting part about being in rev tech is that, with any tech, you really have to justify ROI, but ours is very, very clear and tied to direct revenue.
Yeah, you're selling to sellers as well, so I think that's like the toughest audience.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's tough, but fair, I'd say, because they understand the sales process and they just want to be more effective in what they're doing.
Yeah. So talk us through the product in a little more detail. How's that work? Obviously, there's a Teams integration we're going to talk about and how you do that. But I kind of want to know where did it start, and did it start with the concept of pulling data from meetings, or did it start from email or CRM? Where did it start?
Yeah, great question. So our founder, Amit Bentoff, was originally actually a CEO at a different company, and everything was going pretty swimmingly, or so he thought, until he essentially had a quarter from hell. They were totally missing on their projections, on their forecasts, and he had no idea why. And so he, in kind of conversations with people, he met his co-founder, Elon, and they were essentially like, how do we miss this, and how can we make sure that we never miss this again? And so that's kind of how the genesis of Gong came about, is that understanding what was actually happening in each of those deals would have made sure that they could have actually aligned on a predictable forecast. And so, as probably a lot of people here are aware, CRM is great, and it's a very, very impactful data layer. But going from a conversation with a prospect or a customer and then taking everything that was in that conversation and inputting that into CRM manually. I think the data is there's 5,000 words said on that conversation, and on average, maybe 50 make it back into the CRM. So there's so much.
Even 50 is doing well in some of the companies I've worked in.
Yeah. That's a good sales rep, right? But the idea here is that there's so much context that we're missing on those calls that should just be automatically pushed into a CRM or pushed into or as insights for the sales team to actually have a predictable revenue engine. And so that's kind of how it came about. It started off with what we would call conversational intelligence. We have since moved from that singular product of conversational intelligence into both of more of like truly forecasting and also sales engagement. So now we are a full platform with Gong Enable, which is that more of revenue intelligence or conversational intelligence product, Gong Engage, which is our sales engagement platform, and then Gong Forecast, which obviously is more of like a deal board forecasting capabilities.
Awesome. And was Gong kind of born with AI in mind, or was it like it came very quickly after and it was like, oh, this is just a perfect marriage of technology and kind of opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you'll definitely hear that with the current conversations around AI, is that we really were born with AI. We kind of had to, given that to transcribe and understand context of each of those individual conversations, we weren't manually doing that, right? We had to have some sort of large language models created and articulated around those calls. And so I believe we have around 40 of our own native LLMs, but I can double check on that number. But yes, it's we were born in and with AI.
That's awesome. And the key thing, as you talked about there, is pulling data from calls and meetings, summarizing that in the correct way and pushing that into the CRM, I guess. And that's what platforms are you supporting there?
Yeah. So the main ones that we natively integrate with are, of course, Dynamics, Salesforce, and then HubSpot. In terms of kind of the other players in the space, right? Those are really the three dominant ones that we see. We have the ability to kind of build custom integrations for those as well, but it's really those main three.
Yeah, awesome. And then on the UC side, what platforms can you work with on that side?
Yeah. So Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet are really the three main ones that we're leveraging.
Awesome. And I want to get into the team specifically and how that works. And Numonix, who put us together, obviously, are some of the technology behind that. So that'd be good to get into. But when you pull the data, I guess there's a lot of these like meeting summary platforms now, right? There's like, I was having this conversation the other day. There's done like a dozen prosumer ones. There's the platforms each have their own. What's the secret sauce you're bringing to that party?
Yeah. So, I think what you're referring to, and we've seen it across a lot of these more point solutions, is just the commodification of certain types of tech. And I'd say call recording and transcribing of those calls, that's pretty commoditized at this point. For us, though, it's really the agent layer that we actually just recently released that can now analyze those calls and pull out insights, both out of the box and custom, based on what you want to actually pull out those calls. So yes, the call recording is great. Yes, the transcription is fantastic. Probably, if I'm biased, probably better than most of our other competitors. But on top of that, it's really that agentic AI that we have now that's going to allow you to essentially query across, whether it be an account, a number of account, a single call with an account, a number of calls with an account, or like the entirety of activity with and to that account. Querying that and understanding the true context and insights that you can pull out of that is much more powerful than I'd say what you see with just kind of a regular call recorder and transcription tool. Really just a note taker at that point. Yeah.
So is that bit like, if we assume that roughly a bunch of things can get a recording and a transcript, and we can definitely argue over one slightly better than the other, but then what you do with that information, how you summarize it, and like if it was a medical conversation, that's very different to an HR conversation is very difficult to a sales conversation. So I'm guessing, and keep me honest here, I'm guessing you have specific training and specific models for like, here's the bits we think are pertinent to this scenario.
Totally. Absolutely. And like, just to drill down on another point that you made, like, it really is at this point all about the data and how you can then leverage that data. Right. And so if you look really at Gong's history, when we were mainly a conversational intelligence tool, we really focused on sales leaders, obviously, but then also the sales enablement buyer. Since then, because coaching was really a super strong use case for us. Since then, while we do still definitely support that use case, once we've kind of come out with these other products, these sales engagement tools and these forecasting tools, we've shifted more and more towards articulating ourselves around still sales leaders, still enablement, but really this RevOps persona who cares so much more about data and how to actually leverage that data to close more deals, build more pipeline, et cetera. And so again, it's just been really cool to see that evolution going from, okay, really just kind of extracting the data to now actually doing really cool things with it to help our customers get more deals.
That's awesome. I love that concept of like obviously you can help an individual person, but if you're pulling data across the whole sales team, the whole deal engagement, I imagine you can start to pull some really interesting insights of like, well, this team are doing better than this team. How are they working? What are they doing? This is working. This is not working. Is that the kind of thing you can do from a top down perspective?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of one of the main things that we track is like, or one of the main selling points is understanding what strategic initiatives are winning and what strategic initiatives are losing. And so understanding, okay, the messaging that is currently resonating with this buyer is XYZ based on these reps actually leveraging it effectively and, progressing their deal versus the reps who haven't been using that kind of talk track and are thus losing, right? That's kind of more of like a standard use case. But what's really cool is when you start seeing things like Gong, like what we're doing with Gong Labs. And just as an example, and this is kind of an old example, but it was one that was really pushed by a lot of people, is just that like we found through analysis that cursing more on calls actually tends to help with deals because they feel the person that you're speaking to feels like you're a little bit more personable, and that type of thing. So those are kind of like the insights those aren't the main insights that we're pulling, but those are kind of sort of more the interesting ones that we're finding out, just kind of through running this business and doing this kind of exploration into AI.
Yeah, it's super. Like, it must be fascinating. I think it must be really interesting as well because a lot of that's going to come down to like particular subvertical and culture and country and all sorts of things. I'm guessing, again, keep me honest, you can start to understand, well, like actually it works different in this country than does this country, or this vertical than does this vertical.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're now international. We just opened up an APAC office, and I think there's definitely some learnings from when our team in the US was selling to that market. They probably learned pretty quickly that now, of course, the team there probably already knew, but can certainly leverage. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's get into the tech a little bit. So with Teams, obviously you've got like, big UCaaS platform. I imagine a lot of particularly your enterprise customers are probably Teams related. We've got the desktop clients, the web clients, the mobile clients. So presumably you needed to find a way to capture any team scenario.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'd say, I mean, you know it better than I do, but over the past 5 years, it's been just an explosion in terms of team usage. I actually looked at kind of just like a real quick gut check that we do over here is just kind of typing in a certain concept and seeing how many times it has been mentioned quarter over quarter, month over month, et cetera. And it's fully up and to the right with Teams. And of course, this quarter now being the most times that it's been mentioned. So it's been pretty great to see, and super glad that we obviously have Numonix as a partner, and really just to kind of get into that partnership, right? And really why we're partnering with them. At the most basic level, Numonix really allows us to deliver on the outcomes that I mentioned earlier, which is helping teams close more deals, helping people understand their forecasts, those sorts of things, because it's really just allows the basic functionality between Gong and Teams. So without it, we would definitely be doing a disservice, I'd say, to our enterprise customers.
Yeah. And so people in our community will know Numonix for compliance call recording probably. In this scenario, you're using their TRaaS service, which is essentially where you're taking their media capture engine and using that to capture, which means you're using like a certified approach on the team side because Numonix is certified, and secure getting all the data from any team scenario. So the rep can be using mobile, web, it doesn't matter, because it's essentially using the same engine that we use for compliance recording.
Right, exactly. So like if our team or if a team is calling out from teams and they're talking to a champion, we're actually able to record that now. We're actually able to coach based on any team call that's recorded in Teams. And then of course, I think really huge for this audience, as you mentioned, like it alleviates the need to kind of scrutinize compliance because Numonix is obviously already compliant. So we kind of cross the check for.
That's a big one in our space. There are lots of tools because there are APIs to do this yourself, and obviously you've got a smart team over there, right? Like conceptually, you could find a way to pull media, but unless you're on that certified kind of inner circle with Microsoft, they keep changing things, They update things, they move things around, and it's kind of you can do it with our APIs if you like, but if something goes wrong, you've got nobody to turn to because you're not certified. So the fact you can leverage a certified integration, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, just seconding that, right? Like there's, I wouldn't say hoops you have to jump through, but there's certainly a lot of different things that you kind of have to meet or standards that you have to meet, that we figured it was just much easier to go through a certified partner who has already done the work and who's also willing to work with us than go down that road alone.
That's awesome. And I'd love to get your perspective, Patrick, on like just broadening out to kind of the AI and data insight space. Like, well, what's coming down the road for you in terms of Gong, and what do you think is really interesting in like that space? Because it's a real hot topic at the moment of how we use this data.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think what will be coming down the chain, or what could be coming down the chain, is just more and more integrations and compatibility between things like Gong and I'd say things like, the ChatGPTs of the world. Just seeing more and more how kind of different solutions fit into like the model context protocol framework is going to be really, really interesting. I think, I'm obviously very biased, but Gong, to me, we're at a very interesting place because we have our own, we serve both as like the server and the host in that model, which allows us to kind of, I'd say, both be a hub and a spoke in these sort of conversations with different AI tools. So I'm super excited just to understand just to see more how like these new and evolving integrations work with some of our current technology partners, and probably partners that we haven't even been thinking about that now through like this AI explosion are able to extract data and push it into Gong's platform and vice versa. So it's long-winded, but that's kind of what I'm most excited for.
I think that's super interesting. And it's like the MCP thing, you're right, as you say that, like theoretically Gong can be the interface to like Dynamics is, a beast. Salesforce is a beast in some orgs. Like I want to access that information via chat, via Gong, and then the same the other way around. I'm using ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or whatever it might be. Like that agent scenario, now you're serving data into that interface. So theoretically, you could be going in all sorts of directions. Like, that feels like what end users kind of want. They want like an interface to get to all their data. They don't really want to go to where we are at the moment. Is I go to the tool for the job mostly, and that MCP stuff seems to be the on the cusp of changing that a little bit.
Yeah, and like by no means is that a forward-looking statement on our product roadmap. But wouldn't it be
just
cool?
Interesting to see your personal perspective on the space, and you're obviously right on it because this MCP stuff has like just exploded in the last kind of even few weeks, hasn't it? So it's really interesting.
And it wouldn't it be cool if like there was almost like if there was just a kind of like a sales-oriented true like interface like we have with ChatGPT or like we Claude that was really kind of just built on or built mainly on sales data. Obviously we do a little bit of that, but like just focusing on that could be really cool.
Also the speech stuff is really interesting. Like I've been experimenting with that a lot, and like it's getting really good. So you can definitely see a point where like, particularly with a lot of salespeople, they're on the move, on the road, like being able to say, what was the latest on this account or that account, as it kind of mimics if you're at the very upper echelons of these games, you probably have an EA or a PA or a team or like helping you out. Like in some ways, the AI can give everybody that kind of power.
Yeah, actually, I'm smiling because I work with a gentleman. Shout out to Francis Ferrero from Mad Kudu. He's the CPO and founder, but he got myself and my boss here at Gong, Rob Moyer, on essentially having fully coaching conversations live with ChatGPT, essentially talking to it and having full conversations, but leveraging that to coach yourself and become a better professional.
Yeah, it's if people listening to the pod haven't experimented with it yet, it's really worth playing with. And again, we're still relatively early in this cycle, so it's only going to get better and better.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Patrick, thanks for joining the pod. Really appreciate the insights into what you're doing at Gong. I think it's really exciting, and the Numonix partnership. Nice to hear how that all hangs together. And good luck with the future. I'm sure a lot of good stuff will be coming. Yeah, thank you, Tom, and thank you to Numonix for putting us together. Awesome. Cheers.